On this week's NESN Patriots podcast, we'll discuss the end of the Patriots' 2019 regular season, and we will preview their wild card round matchup against the Tennessee Titans. And welcome to this week's NESN Patriots podcast. We took a break last week for Christmas. Couldn't really find a great time to schedule this, but we are back now to recap really the last couple weeks of the Patriots regular season and preview their upcoming matchup against the Tennessee Titans in the wild card round. Zach, how are you doing? I'm joined as always by Zach Cox. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Doug. We have anything interesting to talk about today?
Nope, not at all.
This is a pretty standard week, right? You know,
yeah.
Patriots are going to be off this weekend, and then we'll get ready for maybe the
the divisional round?
The Texans or the Chiefs coming in here next week, right?
Yeah, no, did not work out that way for the Patriots. Lost to the Miami Dolphins in Week 17. And now they have to play in the wild card round for the first time in 10 years. The last time this happened was 2009, and they lost in the wild card round that season to the Ravens. So not a great bit of history there for the Patriots when they do have to play in the wild card round, and this is a very difficult matchup against the Titans. But yeah, just to recap, I thought the Patriots played really well in Week 16 against the Buffalo Bills, and they played about as poorly as you could possibly expect in Week 17 against the Dolphins. We certainly expected the Patriots to wipe out the Dolphins in that game. Everyone else did as well. The Patriots were favored by 16.5 points, and they lost 27-24. Poor defensive performance and a really bad performance from Tom Brady as well.
Yeah, there are multiple factors that you can point to in kind of explaining the reasons for this Dolphins loss, which is one of the more surprising and costly regular season losses of the Belichick era, really. I saw some people on Twitter saying that was an overreaction. I don't think it is. I mean, all the Patriots had to do was beat a 4-win Miami Dolphins team that was made up of just random guys. I mean, we both cover the NFL for a living, and there were several players on this Dolphins roster that I had never heard of until last week. They were basically plucking guys off the street, plucking guys off various practice squads. A couple Patriots practice squatters started in this game for the Dolphins. All the Patriots had to do was win this game. They would be number 2 seed in the AFC. They would have a first round bye, and they weren't able to do it. I mean, the main reasons that you can point to for this were Tom Brady had probably his worst game of the season after perhaps his best game of the season, and Stephon Gilmore had by far his worst game of the season, maybe even his worst game as a New England Patriot. He really struggled against Devontae Parker, who was a guy that he shut down in Week 2, actually shut out in that game. Devontae Parker, 0 catches on 7 targets in that first Patriots game. Devontae Parker in this game, 8 catches on 11 targets, 137 yards, and some really key catches as the Dolphins were driving for some scores in this game. Really surprising. I was not expecting this from Stephon Gilmore. I was not expecting this from this Patriots defense as a whole. I guess the Tom Brady performance probably isn't as surprising considering the way that this offense has performed for a lot of the games in this season. But yeah, overall, very bad time to have some very poor performances from 2 very important players.
Yeah, really weird that Brady looked so good in Week 16 against the Bills, who have one of the best defenses in the NFL, and then the amount of struggles they had against the Dolphins. Brady went 26 of 33, 271 yards and a touchdown against the Bills there in Week 16. And against the Dolphins, he went 16 of 29 for 221 yards, 2 touchdowns and an interception. Those stats don't really tell the full story. He had, according to Pro Football Focus, his lowest accuracy rating of the season. He only had, the PFF only charged receivers with 1 drop in that game. He had no throwaways, no passes batted at the line of scrimmage, no spikes. So there was really, beyond that 1 drop, there were no excuses for Tom Brady's incompletions. And, I mean, the accuracy issues were really evident. He was sailing passes to Mohamed Sanu, to N'Keal Harry, to Philip Dorsett. And, you know, there were a couple of pseudo drops in there as well where, you know, N'Keal Harry got his hands on a pass and Julian Edelman got his hands on a pass. But the one to Edelman was pretty low. The one to Harry was definitely thrown off the mark. And, I mean, even looking at those 2 touchdowns, not to, you know, get too negative on Tom Brady, but, I mean, one of them was a screen pass, which was 4 yards behind the line of scrimmage to James White that he took in for a touchdown. The other one was thrown to a wide-open Elandon Roberts, and it wasn't an easy catch for Roberts to make. It was a pretty high throw, not, you know, for a pass like that where Elandon Roberts was wide open sprinting down the field, it could have been placed better. I mean, that's not one of the passes to really criticize in this matchup, but just looking at his performance as a whole, if you rewatch it, there was a lot more bad than good. And yeah, he did lead the Patriots on a go-ahead drive there at the end of the game, but just the fact that the Patriots had to be in that position with 3 minutes left in the game and that they weren't able to put this game away in the first or second quarter was really evidence enough of Brady's struggles.
Yeah, the Roberts pass was pretty telling to me, just because that's a fullback who's never caught a pass in the NFL. You want to put that ball, you can hit him perfectly in stride. And
like right in his chest.
Yeah, on that play, Roberts had to turn around, spin his body around. He made a pretty nice catch. It was a very nice play for a guy who's basically never played offense until a couple weeks ago. But yeah, that was just a little evident of where Tom Brady just not being precise with a lot of his throws. I mean, he had the 2 into the end zone, one to Sanu, one to Harry, that they weren't wide open, but they're passes that we've definitely seen Tom Brady make in the past. Right. He had one to that flew over Philip Dorsett's head on a kind of a long curl or a comeback route early in the game. And it's always hard. It's been hard for the last couple of weeks to assign blame on some of these what appear to be poor throws, because you never really know if the receiver is supposed to be 2 steps one way, 2 steps the other way. But to see it happen so frequently now,
these are pretty obvious.
These ones were I think I agree with that more clear than some of the ones we've had in recent weeks. And I know a lot of people have continued to kind of explain away Tom Brady's poor numbers and struggles as well. He's playing with a bunch of guys who aren't his supporting cast isn't nearly as good as it has been in the past. But I mean, you need Tom Brady to play better than he did on Sunday, and he even admitted that. He said that he was not. He did not take full advantage of his opportunities. He played poorly. He made some poor throws, and he did. And the Patriots are going to need him to play better in the playoffs if they have any chance of advancing.
And the Patriots' offensive line actually did a really nice job in this game. I think they only had 3 pressures allowed all game, so it wasn't their fault for Tom Brady's struggles. Like I mentioned, there was really only one official drop that came from Mohamed Sanu, and even that pass was maybe a little bit behind Sanu. It was a tough drop.
I would probably give Harry the drop too on the one that basically hit him in the face.
Yeah,
but even still, that's only 1 or 2 throws.
Right. But the Patriots' rushing attack was actually good for the 3rd consecutive week. Sony Michel, 18 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Rex Burkhead ran well, 6 carries, 48 yards. So the offense around Tom Brady, I thought, played pretty well. It was essentially Brady who was the issue.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Mohamed Sanu had probably his best game in several weeks in this game. I mean, his stats weren't particularly impressive. I think he finished with 3 catches for 35 yards, but he had a really nice 3rd down conversion on kind of a scramble drill late in the game. He had another 10-yard catch on 3rd down, had a 3rd down conversion wiped out by an offensive pass interference penalty. He did have the drop, as you mentioned, but overall this was a much more promising performance for a guy who's really hasn't added that much to the Patriots offense in recent weeks. So that there were several kind of positive takeaways from this performance offensively. You mentioned the run game. Rex Burkhead has looked really good in these last couple weeks. Sony Michel has looked good. The offensive line as a whole has played a lot better of late. But yeah, when you couple that with this performance from Tom Brady, it wasn't enough against a Dolphins team that I think gave the Patriots a lot more of a challenge than they were expecting. They were playing like a team that did not expect this game to be as difficult as it was.
And not to get too deep into Twitter replies and everything, but I think that Patriots defense deserves criticism for this game. They didn't play well. You mentioned Stephon Gilmore. He had his worst performance of the season. They allowed 20 points to a team that has been putting up 30 points. The Dolphins won 27-24, but 7 of those points came off of a Tom Brady pick 6. So the Patriots allowed 20 points to the Dolphins, who have a better offense than they do have a defense at this point. And quite frankly, allowing 20 net points to a team that was 4-11 heading into the game, that should be enough for the Patriots offense to overcome against a team that, like you mentioned, had 2 players that were starting off of the Patriots practice squad, and Calvin Munson and Nate Brooks. So, certainly the Patriots defense deserves some blame for this performance. They certainly deserve blame for allowing the go-ahead drive at the end of the game. But overall, I think that blame at least has to be shared evenly between the offense, and like we mentioned, that's mostly Brady, and the defense, who probably were giving up too many long drives to the Dolphins.
I agree. Yeah, you can't pin a loss on a defense that allows 20 points in any game against any team. It was, I mean, I'm not going to absolve the defense of their mistakes because they did not play particularly well in this game. Some of the defensive play calling was a little strange too, just kind of leaving the middle of the field wide open on so many of these just quick slants from Ryan Fitzpatrick. But yeah, it was definitely a case where the offense did not play well, the defense did not play well. Kind of a perfect storm of struggles for the Patriots in this game.
Yeah, the lack of turnovers, I think, were a big factor as well. The Patriots did not generate any takeaways against the Miami Dolphins, whereas the Patriots did have that pick six, like I mentioned. It was also a little bit odd at the end of the first half, and I think that this goes into those Patriots' offensive struggles, is that the Patriots could have got the ball with a little bit, I think, what would have been like a minute and 40 seconds left on the clock.
Something along those lines,
They had 3 timeouts, and the Patriots just ran the ball twice and ran out the clock. Bill Belichick said after the game that if they had got a first down on that first run, then maybe they would have taken their timeouts. But Tom Brady said essentially after the game that, I can't really blame the decision because we weren't performing well on offense. So it seems like that probably was the reason for the Patriots just deciding to run out the final minute of the clock there at the first half rather than trying to score. But, I mean, in a game that you lose 27-24, every point matters there.
I went down a weird rabbit hole last night going off of these same comments about that, about the decision-making at the end of the first half. It's been a very, very long time since we've had a legitimate Patriots double score where they score a touchdown. My criteria was a touchdown in the final 2 minutes of the first half and then a touchdown on the opening drive of the second half. That hasn't happened since week 6 of the 2017 season.
Wow.
So it's been a very long time. I spent way too much time looking this up last night, but I went down, and in the early 2010s, it was a relatively frequent occurrence. And it has not happened much lately. They did have 2 kind of mini double scores earlier this year. They had one against Philly where they got a field goal, then a touchdown, and then the same thing against Washington. But yeah, it's been a long time since the kind of double score mystique is kind of worn off a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what you kind of want when you get the ball in the second half. And I feel like in general, I don't have stats to back this up. I didn't look it up, but I feel like the Patriots haven't done much on their opening drive of the second half this season. I feel like we've actually seen a decent amount of there was a 3-and-out this week. I feel like we've actually seen that pretty commonly over the last few weeks for the Patriots. But
that was the first thing Tom Brady noted too in his EEI interview yesterday. I think it was EEI when he was asked about the Patriots. He said something about them kind of not closing on their opportunities. That was the first thing he mentioned, the 3-and-out to start the second half, and that's a real kind of momentum killer when you have a 3-and-out like that at that stage of the game.
For sure. All right, so the Patriots will take on the Titans in the wild card round, as we mentioned, and the Titans are 9-7. You would think that number 6 seed, this should be an easy victory for the Patriots, but that's not really the case because the Titans are playing some really good football as of late. They have lost 2 of their last 3 games, but one of those games was against the Saints, and the other one was against
the Texans.
The
Saints game, they didn't have Derrick Henry.
Right.
But yeah, they're not a perfect team by any means.
That's interesting that they played the Texans twice in the final 3 weeks of the season.
AFC South football is weird anyway. I mean, I feel like any of those teams can beat anybody else on any given Sunday. But over the last, basically ever since Ryan Tannehill replaced Marcus Mariota as the Titans starting quarterback in Week 7, they've been extremely good. They rank 3rd in the NFL in scoring over that span. Only the Ravens and the Saints have scored more. They're 7-3. Ryan Tannehill has been legitimately one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL this season, which is remarkable to say after watching the way he played in Miami for the last 6 years. He was never a actively bad quarterback, but he was just constantly waiting for him to take that next step.
Right.
And it never happened with the Dolphins, and now it has happened after he started the season on the bench in Tennessee. I mean, just looking at some of his stats this season, I went through some Titans stuff yesterday. He led the NFL in passer rating during the regular season, led the NFL in yards per attempt, and 9.6 yards per attempt. No other quarterback had more than 8.6. And in the last 7 games alone, I'll rattle off some stats for you. Tennessee's last 7 games, Tannehill, 16 touchdown passes, 2 interceptions, 6 games with a passer rating above 130. Completed a 40-plus yard pass in each game, including 40, 41, 51, 65, and 91-yard touchdowns. And the Titans have averaged 33.4 points per game during that span, second most only behind the Ravens.
Yeah.
And it's not just been Tannehill. Obviously, they have Derrick Henry, who is the NFL rushing leader during the regular season, and A.J. Brown, who's been maybe not the best rookie receiver in the NFL this year, but at the very worst, he's most definitely in the top 3. And this is a guy that a lot of people, I know we talked about a fair amount before the NFL draft this past season as somebody that the Patriots could be interested in. The Patriots actually had him in for a meeting and a workout before the draft. Bill Belichick this morning said he was very impressive during that meeting and drafted 19 picks after N'Keal Harry in this draft, and he's been phenomenal. I mean, he's got over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 20.2 yards per catch this season. That's second best among of all receivers or all pass catchers in the NFL. And he's just basically been an absolute big play machine for this Titans team. So he's a guy that I think some Patriots fans have looked at this season and been saying, well, why can't we get this guy when our rookie receiver is kind of still working his way back as he is now?
You do wonder how he would fit in the Patriots offense just because it is so demanding. And this is something I looked up when I was looking up N'Keal Harry's ability after the catch. N'Keal Harry is 4th among all offensive players in Pro Football Focus's elusive rating, and that's because he's gained 10.4 yards after contact per carry, and he's broken 8 total tackles this season. A.J. Brown is second, actually, with 17.3 yards after contact per rushing attempt, and he's broken 17 tackles. Actually, first is another Titans player, Titans tight end Jonnu Smith, who has averaged 21 yards after contact per rushing attempt, and he has 19 total forced tackles missed. So those are 2 guys who are extremely good after the catch, very dangerous on rushing attempts as well. Oddly enough, Marcus Mariota is 3rd on that list as well. So I guess before he got benched, he was actually doing pretty decently as a rusher at making guys miss. But yeah, I mean, those are 2 pretty dangerous weapons there in Jonnu Smith and A.J. Brown. And like I said, the Titans are 9-7 on the season, but you do have to split that season in half, and essentially the Titans are a 7-3 team coming into Foxborough rather than a 9-7 team because they went 2-4 before the Titans bench Marcus Mariota for Ryan Tannehill. Titans are not nearly as good. I'm struggling with my words here on defense, but they're no pushovers as well. They've been pretty good against the run. They've got a pretty stout defensive front with a lot of guys who have been around there for a while. Jarrell Casey is still good. They've got some edge players and off-the-ball linebackers who Patriots fans certainly want in the draft, and Harold Landry and Rashawn Evans. Nickel cornerback or slot cornerback Logan Ryan is one of the best run defending cornerbacks in the NFL as well.
Having an awesome season this year. I mean, his stat, 113 tackles, 18 passes defended. This is probably easily the best statistical season of his career. Yeah,
and then I mean they've had some injuries there at the cornerback position. Malcolm Butler on IR, Adoree Jackson's been hurt, but their safeties are good as well, and Kevin Byard and Kenny Vaccaro. So I mean, the way the Patriots offense has been performing. If Tom Brady was Tom Brady of old, and if this offense was clicking like it was, 2 or 3 years ago, this might be a game where you can expect the Patriots offense to outperform the Titans offense. But I don't know. This is going to be tough, and I think the Patriots are only favored 4.5 points in this game. That seems pretty fair. Vegas is almost looking at these 2 teams as being fairly even coming into this matchup.
Definitely, and you mentioned that Titans defense. A lot of the players on that Titans defense were there last season when these 2 teams played down in Nashville. Tom Brady had a pretty rough game in that game. They were able to do a lot of Tennessee was able to do a lot of things to kind of get him off his spot, get him off his game. His stats in that game were fine. I mean, he was 21 of 41 for 254 yards, no touchdowns. Had the receipt. He had the reception in that game off the double pass. And then the Titans came back and threw their own double pass to Marcus Mariota and had that the reverse pass or whatever it was. But yeah, that was definitely not a good game for the Patriots offense. They only scored 10 points in that game, and it was basically looking at the stats from that game, it was kind of a similar situation to what we've seen a lot this season, where it was a lot of Julian Edelman. He had 100 yards in that game, and then not much else other than a long completion to Josh Gordon. So this is a defense that hasn't been, as you mentioned, it's nowhere near elite this season. It's not one of the better defenses in the NFL, but when you have Mike Vrabel, when you have Dean Pease, their defensive coordinator, both of them came through New England. They know this team and this organization, the scheme very well. Those are the kind of opposing coaches that tend to give this Patriots offense trouble.
Yeah, and I would certainly expect them to be double covering Julian Edelman. And even if they don't, he's got a pretty tough matchup against Logan Ryan. And if they double cover Julian Edelman or really shift a lot of their focus over to him, then Tom Brady has to rely on guys that he just really hasn't shown that great of chemistry with so far, N'Keal Harry and Mohamed Sanu and his tight ends there. I do think this would be the right game to get N'Keal Harry going. He still does not have more than 4 touches in a game. He did have a career-high 7 targets against Miami Dolphins, but as we mentioned earlier, Brady's accuracy on 3 of those targets was pretty far off. There was an overthrow. There was a throw in the end zone that Harry almost toe-tapped, but it was just a little bit too far wide for Harry to come down with. And then there was a throw. There's another overthrow in the final seconds of the fourth quarter that Harry just couldn't get to on a deep pass. So I do think that the Patriots should, be trying to get the ball into N'Keal Harry's hands more and more. He hasn't put up impressive stats so far this season, but if you're watching him, he does tend to do impressive things. So if they want to get that offense going, hand him the ball, get him the ball on some screen passes, maybe get him the ball on some back shoulder throws. Just find a way to get the ball into his hands, because other offensive players other than Julian Edelman aren't really clicking in the passing game right now.
Yeah, at this point in N'Keal Harry's career, Patriots basically have to draw up ways to get him the ball.
Right.
Almost all of his touches, or at least the vast majority of his touches, have come on plays that were designed for him, whether it's a reverse or a jet sweep or an end around or even just a pass play that is very clearly kind of designed to go into his hands. And I mean, that's obviously kind of limits what you can do with him on offense, but he has been very productive basically every time he's had the ball in his hands over these last couple of weeks. So I agree. I think it would definitely be a benefit to get him more involved. And if you get N'Keal Harry more involved and he has success early in a game, eventually a team has to kind of back off with a double on Julian Edelman if another one of these receivers is being kind of constantly productive. So N'Keal Harry hasn't reached that point yet where he can be a guy that the defense has to kind of devote extra attention to.
Right.
But he does have obvious physical talent. He's made a lot of plays in these last couple of weeks, and I agree. I think it would be in their best interest to put the ball in his hands more often.
I'm also curious to see what the Patriots do with Stephon Gilmore in this game. He covered Corey Davis last year, and he actually really struggled against Corey Davis. I think that was the game that Gilmore was kind of sick during.
He was clearly under the weather, but yeah, that was the game that everybody talked about earlier this year. I mean, like, man, the last time Stephon Gilmore really struggled was that time in Tennessee against Corey Davis. He did really struggle against Davis in that game, and Davis is having a decent season this year. He got 43 catches, 601 yards, 2 touchdowns, fine statistics, but A.J. Brown has been their clear number one over the last 10, 11, 12 weeks. So, yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle this, whether they just kind of go their normal route and say, number one guy, Steph, you go take care of him, or whether this past week changes anything about that at all. I don't think it does. I think this was just a bad week for Gilmore. I don't think it by any means erases what he did over the previous 15 weeks, but it definitely will be interesting to see how they handle A.J. Brown and how they handle Jonnu Smith, as you mentioned, because Patrick Chung has been pretty shaky in coverage basically this entire season, especially against Mike Gesicki. He had some issues against Miami, so that's going to be another matchup to watch.
Yeah, you kind of figured you probably do see Gilmore and Brown. Then that would probably put J.C. Jackson on Corey Davis, which isn't a bad matchup. Kind of unclear if Adam Humphries is going to play in this game. He hasn't played for the last 2 weeks, I believe.
He hasn't played since week 13.
Week 13.
He's had an ankle injury that's kept him out.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if he'll be ready for this week. If not, it'll probably be Tajay Sharp as that number 3 wide receiver who you don't really probably whether it's Humphries or Sharp. I mean, Humphries might wind up having a good game, but you'll probably see Jonathan Jones play a bigger role this week than he did last week when he was still sort of nursing that groin injury.
That was, on that real quick, that was a weird kind of game plan wrinkle where basically Joejuan Williams entered the game as the Patriots' number 3 cornerback, and then they switched to Jonathan Jones in like late second quarter, or late in the first half or early in the second half. I haven't been able to see. I mean, I don't remember Williams making any glaring errors right before. He probably should have let up a touchdown early in the game. Ryan Fitzpatrick made a poor throw near the goal line, but that was curious because he thought that the Patriots were just kind of keeping Jones as maybe an emergency option while he works his way back from that groin injury, and then he basically ended up playing the entire second half as that third corner.
Yeah, so I mean, he'll probably be taking on either Sharp or Humphries. Maybe the Patriots get Jason McCourty back in this game as well, and if they do, then you probably might see the Patriots go out with 4 cornerbacks rather than having Chung take on Jonnu Smith. One final thing is just Derrick Henry has been a force this season. He's a big play running back who's 6'3", 247 pounds. And I still don't totally know what to think about the Patriots' run defense. They did really well against the Dolphins, but the Dolphins don't really have any running backs. You're talking about Patrick Laird and
the Dolphins' number 1 running back is nicknamed the Intern. That tells
Patrick
you all.
Laird?
His nickname is the Intern. Yeah, the Dolphins' official Twitter account was tweeting it out during the game.
Interesting. That
tells you all you need to know. Yeah, it was Patrick Laird and Samaje Perine who they picked up like 3 weeks or 3 days before the game. So
and Ryan Fitzpatrick was their leading rusher this season.
Yeah, so not the most explosive rushing attack over there.
No, for sure, and that's the complete opposite this week with the Titans, who Derrick Henry led the league in rushing. I think he also led the league in rushing touchdowns with 15. Had a massive Week 17 performance against Texans backups. But I mean that's something to seriously be concerned about is Derrick Henry, and if he gets rolling, and if the Titans get out to an early lead, then there could be a lot of trouble for the Patriots, and that's one of the reasons why there should be some concern about this game is that Patriots offense really needs to get out to a hot start. Otherwise, it probably will just become the Derrick Henry show. And while the Patriots have seemed decent against the run at times, they also have been pretty inconsistent.
Definitely, and as effective as Henry has been on his own, and he's been, as you mentioned, the NFL rushing leader, tied for the NFL lead in touchdowns with Aaron Jones. Both of them had 16. But one of the kind of side effects of having such an effective running game is that the Titans have been by far the NFL's best team off play action this season, which it's been pretty ridiculous, the numbers that they've been putting up. I mean, Tannehill off play action, NFL leader in passer rating, 143.3. NFL leader, yards per attempt, 13.5, 76.7% completion percentage. They've been phenomenal off play action this season. And Bill Belichick said this morning, it obviously helps to have a back like a back as good as Derrick Henry in there. But we've seen teams that have had very strong running games that aren't nearly this effective off play action. So that's just another wrinkle that makes this Tennessee offense even more difficult to defend.
For sure. So that will be a fantastic matchup between the Patriots and Titans this weekend. That is Saturday night at, 8 p.m.?
8:15.
8:15 p.m.
Late night.
Couldn't possibly make it 8. Got to throw in that 15 in there. Before we get out of here, let's play America's favorite game. I've not really searched. First of all, I noticed this earlier. Titans have a ton of wide receivers on their roster. They have 8 wide receivers, including former Patriots great Cody Hollister. We all know that he went to Arkansas.
He did.
But who are we going to guess where they went to school? Do you know where...
Do you know where Amani Hooker went?
Amani Hooker went to Iowa, correct?
He did.
Do you know where Josh Kalu went? Cornerback,
USC?
number 46.
I don't think so, because I know Dory Jackson went to USC.
Did he go to Oregon? Nebraska.
I was not going to guess. I wasn't going to guess Big Ten with that. How about Michael Pruitt? Mycole.
Ooh, tight end. I feel like he went to, did he go to, Chattanooga or something?
I'm going to say Troy.
Cole Pruitt went to
Southern
Illinois.
We were kind of close.
We were.
Is Anthony Ferkser a Harvard guy?
Anthony Ferkser.
The tight end?
Maybe. I'll guess Brown.
Harvard, there we go. He was an Ivy League guy.
Do you remember where Dane Cruikshank went?
Is he Villanova?
I think he was Arizona.
Oh, he was Arizona. That's right. Yep.
All right, well, that will do it for this week's NESN Patriots podcast. We will be back next week, one way or the other. We will either be previewing the Patriots' upcoming game against Kansas City Chiefs, or I guess we'll be talking about free agency and the draft, and we'll be doing the old 2019 Patriots obituary. So join us next week, and we'll see what happens.